when they introduced the climate change to us, we are told not to use firewood, and we should go into using gas or kerosene. They told us how the heat, increase the heat that increase in the sky affects the climate, and that's why we have more water than necessary. So, and that affects our crops. The quantity of rain we are having before is not as much as the one we are having now. And when even you are expecting rain, you don't have rain. So it is when you don't expect it. So this thing is really affecting our crops. Those of us that are in Arabic farming, before we know the time we have rain, we know the time we have sun, and we use that time to plant. The first year, it really affected us. By the time we plant, hoping that there will be rain, there was no rain at all, and we lost all those things. So it's really affected until now that people are educating us, the government are educating us the time to plant, the time to harvest.
So now, what time do you plant now? What time do you harvest?
We wait for when they will say you should plant, because you cannot predict when the rain will start, when the rain will stop. We are now in February. January throughout, there is no rain. And last year, we have about 4 times rain in January. So you can see that you cannot just predict at all. It's so difficult to predict. And that's why we need government assistance.
Actually, they are the ones, if you meet with most of them, they are the ones that will communicate climate change to you. Because these things are already happening. So it is no longer maybe 15, 20 years ago when it was just the stuff of science fiction. Now the reality is dawning on people, or has dawned on people. The flood of 2011, I think it was a rude wake-up call for a lot of people. Even though there were a lot of factors responsible, but it actually, gave people a jolt to say, this can happen to us. Unlike when you watch it on Al Jazeera or you watch it on CNN and they're talking about flooding in London or whatever, now it is just in your backyard. And, that helps to drive the message home quicker. At the same time, when you meet with a lot of the small-scale farm holders, their experiences are real. They expect rain and then it is dry. It is dry and then so they know it's very easy to communicate with them and to convince them that these things are real because they are already feeling the impacts. So more than ever before, they are also like, what can we do? So they are at the stage at which they know that these things are happening and they are welcoming information. They are welcoming from all avenues to communicate what they need to do in order to prepare them for the next stage, in order to prepare them for low productivity or to help them to enhance their productivity in the face of a changing climate.
Please, let us work together.
Recently in Lagos, the Human and Environmental Development Agenda Resource Center, in partnership with Oxfam, launched a campaign tagged Food and Climate Justice. The campaign is meant to drum up the issue of climate change impact on agriculture, particularly on the life of small-scale farmer and rural people in Nigeria and Africa.
The main thing of this kind of program is actually to bring out indigenous knowledge of the local people. People know how to do adaptation strategy, but some of those things are not documented. Africa has a way of not documenting its knowledge, especially the one that domiciles with the local people. It comes out in folktales rather than in books. And the main issue is actually to see how we can address the issue of climate change by getting all the stakeholders on board and how to make sure that all of us are responsible to curtail this menace. Like I said, the adaptation, the mitigation strategies, also knowledge domiciles with our people. But in terms of bringing it to forelight and also sharing the knowledge with other people in order to put some of these issues into policy, into legal framework that will enable farmers to be able to use some of this knowledge in a way that it is more encompassing by putting them in policy, agricultural policy, and also climate change policy. This will help us to actualize most of the issues in a way that is self-sustaining and also ensure that local governance is also taken care of.
The importance of the Food and Climate Justice Campaign, which is a campaign of Oxfam International, is to say that there are too many poor people in the world, too many hungry people in the world. Majority of them are in Africa, and the situation is going to get bad because of climate change. There are going to be many more hungry people because African agriculture is likely to fail. The predictions for 2020 and 2050 by IPCC for African agriculture is not good at all. So if this is the situation, we want to mobilize voices so that we start the demand from within, from the local government, the state government, the national governments in Africa, to put in place appropriate policies, appropriate programs to respond to climate change. Not only that, for them to mobilize themselves and ensure that we get a good global deal. Because no matter how much you try to adapt, if it is still business as usual, if the worst emitting countries do not cut emission, global temperature is going to rise above bearable levels. And that's going to have a lot of impact on coastal cities in Africa. Already the Sahel area of Africa is facing drought for the last 5 years. This is major crisis. And when we talk about this, it's not, when we say drought, we are talking about the lives of millions of people. So the essence of the campaign really is to call on our own governments first, that they need to do the right thing. Call on our big businesses that they need to do the right. They need to produce in a more sustainable way. The farmers in country to adapt. And then we need to now, as a people, as a country, as a continent, take our voices united to the global stage to say we demand climate justice for Africa.
Climate change not only threatens the stability and productivity of our agricultural systems, agriculture itself is in fact responsible for over 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. However, the agricultural sector also offers great potential to be part of the solution to tackling climate change. It is therefore essential to tackle matters of food security and the challenges posed by climate change together.
In terms of what is being done for food security and how climate change is affecting it, one of the key drivers of the impact or of agricultural activities on the general environment is the fact that a lot of farmlands or natural forests are being opened up as a result of lowered productivity. So, and that is why I said there needs to be a synergy with other sectors of the economy, because when we look at food security, agricultural landscapes, we also have to look at the natural environment too, our forests, and the services that they produce, which are also important for agriculture. So there's a symbiotic relationship, and that symbiotic relationship must be managed very well. We cannot continue to open up forests because we are having lowered productivity. We should rather look at our existing farmlands. Are we putting them to optimal usage in terms of implements, in terms of technology, in terms of tools that are being used? So it is when we have exhausted that before we say we want to open up. And then there are other, should I say, innovative ways of combining agric landscapes, even with natural environments. We have agroforestry, for example, whereby trees are planted within the farming landscape, and this will provide not only shade, it will also provide fruits, it will provide food, it may eventually provide even timber, so that the farmers or their other stakeholders do not really have to go into the forest to cut down trees to get timber. And that is the kind of synergy that I think is needed for us to be able to achieve the much needed food security.
The key to achieving global food security, according to experts, is to increase the yield of current agricultural lands, but in a manner that ensures the natural resources are sustainable and resilient in a changing world.
This is the time for Africa to really see that climate change is a problem, but it also comes with a lot of possibilities. It tells us that we need to reorder our ways. It tells us that we need to relook at the way we do things and, embrace a more sustainable way to approaching our development, a more pragmatic and sensible way to approaching our development, such that nobody is left behind, such that our development is inclusive and is sustainable. This is an opportunity for Africa to do this. And we also have the opportunity to get the global community, particularly those countries that have benefited from business as usual, to pay their dues in terms of helping to transfer appropriate technology to Africa, in terms of helping us to fund the kind of adaptations that we have to do to impact of climate change that we can't do anything about.
At the end of it all, that end is still a long way off. But we want to start small and count our small successes along the way. The first thing is the sensitization, and the sensitization must take place at all levels of the society. Not only do we want the small-scale farmers to have a voice to say that we know we are entitled to this thing. We know that Nigeria has signed an accord to commit 10% of their revenue towards agri production and improvements. We also want that message to be taken up at various levels, local governments, other civil societies, by the state government, to say what are the little things that we can do to empower these small-scale farmers, to reduce poverty with them, to increase the value chain for farmers so that they would not just sweat all day long in the sun and then get little value for what they have produced, so that they can also send their children to good schools. That is, scaling up that message gradually. And like I said, that end is a future that is still some way off. But we hope that by this campaign, we can have a public forcing through civil societies, through the farmers themselves, through media houses, to raise our voices to say, where is our 10%? Where is the commitment of our government to this allocation for agricultural improvements and landscape in Nigeria? Where is the promise to help us improve on our value chain? Where is the transportation system that would help us to preserve some of this our produce so that they don't just rot away in the farm? So it's a whole messaging and forcing, using the public and all different stakeholders to get the message across and get the commitment of all the necessary policy makers to do the right thing.
From adapting to changing weather in South America to cooking smart in Europe, millions of people around the world are already taking action on climate change in their own lives. It is time Nigeria did a lot more in saving our farmers and, by extension, ourselves. Do join us next time on EdFile, but should you like to watch this episode or any other episode of this program, do log on to our website, channelstv.com/EdFile or youtube.com/channelsweb. From all of us here, it's bye for now.